Hi, this is Zach May with the Bulletin Board Heroes, the weekend edition here at Zach's Traders Cafe on the longest day. You can work out what day that is. Starting off with the FTSE 100, which unfortunately broke back below 8,800. It fought bravely, but now well below it. And as was said previously, below 88, looking for the late May support area around 8,700, but hoping that either that will stop the rot or the 50-day line will catch up and provide support later this month or before the month ends. RSI just on the right side of neutral 50, so not quite time to get depressed about the situation on this market. Overall, above 8,700, still looking for a 90-20, which is the top of that rising trend channel from back in March last year. The 50 and 200-day line's also rising sharply, so hopefully that will also scare the market back up again. Moving on to the DAX, and this has already provided disappointment in the sense that we went back below the old March support there, 23,500. Bounced well on the rising 50-day line. This is the sort of thing we expect the FTSE to do. And all that's missing now really is to get back above 23,500 and get the RSI back up above neutral 50 versus 44 at the moment. The Dow is next, and here situation, well, really what we didn't really want it to be, i.e. struggling at the floor of that rising trend channel, the red one there since May last year, sort of 42,100. Basically, we're saying that above 42,000, we're still hopefully going up to 43, which is post-March resistance. On the downside, this market, I suppose, itching to test the 50-day line there, around 41,600. RSI just about on the right side of neutral 50, but you can say, and you can see that this market is struggling there below the 200-day moving average, 42,500. On to perhaps the market of the moment, and here is Bitcoin. You can see that the situation is that of a market just below the 50-day line. Quite disappointing, actually, given that everyone and their mother is supposed to be buying Bitcoin for treasury at the moment. Waiting for an end-of-day close back above the 50-day line there, 104,700. To give us a move up to that resistance line there, just shy of $110,000. That should be the minimum on the upside. Maximum on the upside is $125,000 by the end of next month, which is the top of that rising trend channel from March last year. Worst case at the moment, probably expecting a test of 98,000, the May resistance, but rather strange that the market is not soaring, or this market is not soaring, given the Bitcoin Treasury Strategy Brigade. RSI failed now a couple of times at neutral 50, so if this wasn't Bitcoin, you'd probably be fearful of a move down to the 200-day line, 96,000. Next up is gold, and here taking a long time to consolidate at the bottom of that rising trend channel from March. The level, basically Friday's low, which is around 33.50. Looking for an end-of-day close, a proper clearance of 3,400 to give us the possibility, still have the possibility of a move up to 3,800 on the top of that channel by the end of next month. On the downside, any dips towards the 50-day line, 33.10 now, regarded as dips to buy into, and RSI at 54, so in a good place actually for a move to the upside. We've got, I suppose you could say there's a line of resistance like that, or like that, as I'm going to leave it. And let's see if this market can just make that extra effort to push higher. Moving on to the stocks, and obviously I did a sweep of the Bitcoin Treasury Strategy stocks and forgot one of them, which is Anemoi. Here, a bit like the other stocks that we've seen, you're using historic charts well before this became a Bitcoin play, and you can see that the shares have actually pushed up above the old October 2021 resistance area around 4 pence. Above that, there's not really anything on the chart between 4 and 8.5, and that kind of theorizing has actually worked for many shares, Coincilium, Helium Ventures, etc., even though the old charting data is actually nothing to do with what is going on at the moment. It's still working its magic, but above that 4 pence area, looking for up to 8.5 by the end of next month, which obviously would make some people quite happy. Moving along to the situation at Active Energy, which was a stock which apparently rose on no news, rather sharply. Maybe there was some news or somewhere, but if you look on the Sharescape news, nothing there since April the 22nd, which is quite an achievement, a strong silent type. Here you can see on the chart, though, we were just going by the charting. Once again, we've broken resistance from quite a long time ago, in this case 0.5 pence around April last year, and nothing on the chart really between there and a penny. In fact, you could say there's nothing on the chart really between there and 1.5 pence, but maybe it's not quite as simple as that. But ideally here we stay above the 0.5 pence area. Maybe you could give it down to 0.45, but that is the lay of the land. Covered Arkle quite a couple of times in the recent past, and here you can see that we've broken the old resistance from February, which is a nice thing to do, and within a rising trend channel base heading for 0.63, looking for that by the end of next month, and hoping that we will stay above 0.4. In the meantime, we've got the 50 and 200-day lines rising in parallel, which, as I say very often, is the equivalent of a golden cross in terms of backing a stock. Moving along to the situation at Blue Star Capital, which not quite sure whether it is a Bitcoin strategy play, but what you can see here is that we hit our first target at 13 pence. And the situation now is that we're heading towards the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base, up to 26 pence. Recent news in terms of the company, just quite recently with the holdings in the company and that sort of thing. But the Satoshi Pay update really was the big one there at the end of last month, and that obviously did the trick in terms of the push to the upside. On to a stock which I don't think anyone has heard of, which is Corpus Resources, but we have covered it here a couple of times, looking for the shares to, well, they've hit the first target there at 0.03, looking for them to hit the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base up to 0.047. Very strong price action on Friday. In fact, very strong price action all week with the shares opening at the low, closing at the high. You don't do that accidentally. You do that when somebody is very keen indeed. Next up is Cykel AI with its quaintly named products, and here you can see that we've been in a falling trend channel there. Top of the channel and the target 3.7 pence, just near the 200-day moving average. If you're a fan of the shares and looking for greater glory, the glory could come in the form of a move up to the red line that I'm going to draw. They're up to 5.7 pence, and maybe that's the best case scenario target for the end of next month. We've had a unfilled gap to the upside on Friday, so it's a bear trap gap reversal. Rising 50-day line as well, so if you're a fan of the shares and a fan of charting, you'd be looking for that 5.5 pence target to be hit by the end of next month, while we're above the 50-day moving average, 2.6 pence. On to Gelion or Gelion, and here shares hitting the first target there, basically the top of the wedge around the 20 pence level. Above that, looking for the top of a triangle from the March last year, heading as high as 36 pence. By the end of next month. I mean, this really is there are a lot of stocks now with decent setups. Situation which was perhaps rather surprising in terms of its upside has been Haydale, but it looks as though so the markets all of a sudden likes graphene for some reason. And here, the third or fourth or fifth target, lost count there, 0.5 pence above that, looking for 0.8 pence, which is an October 23 resistance line projection. Again, we're looking for that by the end of next month or even sooner. But what a move there, and nice bull flag breakout there, the base there over 3 or 4 days, and then pushing higher again after that. Very, very strong price action indeed with the golden cross last week as well. On to Hamak Gold, and here a company which I interviewed I think a week or two ago. It seems to have recovered from that, and broken the top of the triangle there again. 0.82 pence above that. Obviously, we're looking for a retest of the June peak around 1.5 pence by the end of next month or even sooner. But that looks very nice indeed, especially given the rebound above a rising 50-day line and a bounce for the RSI at neutral 50. Switching sectors again, and Hostelworld has managed to break 2 targets. One was breaking that resistance line there from January 124. The second was the top of the broadening triangle there, 136, and above that we're looking for the upper parallel of that broadening triangle as high as £1.65 by the end of next month. Nice bounces for the RSI there, neutral 50, so that sort of revving up the price action and the momentum. Another stock which nobody's heard of, apart from Bulletin Board Heroes viewers, is Orchard Funding. Very, very strong price action there, step progression, so vertical, sideways, etc. and hitting the second target there, the red line there. Now looking for 80 pence by the end of next month, which is a resistance line projection from the end of 2020. And that's valid while we hold above the latest broken target at 58 pence. Moving on to a stock which I didn't really want to look at, but looking at the candles in the recent days, something exciting seems to be brewing. That is set on the basis of the unfilled gap to the upside off the lows, and then that vertical push that we had last week or in the last couple of weeks. 50-day moving average rising off the low, and as you can see, those candles opening at the low, closing on the high on various days. Again, that does suggest to me that something exciting is going on there. 41 pence is the top of that falling trend channel from back in May last year, and that's what we're looking for by the end of next month, especially if we can remain above resistance on the way down around the 24 pence level. That was also Friday's support. On to the last two, and they will say every dog has its day, and this looks like the time for Tungsten West, presumably the basis of the rise recently, apart from whatever's going on at Hemadan, is that tungsten all of a sudden is very sexy as we go into World War III. We've got what I call a V-shaped bull flag. We just hit the target there at 8 pence for the second time. Above 8 pence, looking for the shares to hit the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base from March last year. At 14 pence by the end of next month, ideally we stay above the 6 to 7 pence zone. And what you can also see is that the RSI has pushed above 50 early last month, and all the dips for the RSI have been well above neutral 50, which does suggest there is a very strong price action in the mix there, stronger than it probably looks at the moment. Moving on to the final stock, which is Zoo Digital, and here not the sort of thing that you expect to be very sexy, but you can see that the candles there are very, very strong over the last couple of weeks. 50-day moving average rising, approaching our first target there at 19 pence, and looking for a second target by the end of next month, 31 pence, the top of that, the upper parallel of that rising trend channel base from back in February. Obviously, you've got the 200-day line as the initial staging post for the shares. That's it for me today. More updates during the week.